I'm your host, Nic Harcourt, and you're listening to a special edition of Sounds Eclectic with a live performance by Tom York and Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead, recorded in front of a live audience at Electric Lady Studios in Greenwich Village, New York. The songs in the first set were I Might Be Wrong, I Will, Sail to the Moon, and No Surprises. We have another set coming up later. I managed to persuade the whole band, Johnny and Colin Greenwood, Phil Selway, Ed O'Brien, and Tom York, to join me in a small room above the main studio for our interview. It was a rainy New York afternoon, and if you listen carefully, you can actually hear the rain falling outside the windows. We talked about a number of things, including the new album Hail to the Thief, but we began by discussing the recording of the group's groundbreaking previous records, Kid A and Amnesiac. I asked them about the time that they were working on the songs for those albums, and if they had been pushing themselves to explore the boundaries of what a group of musicians could accomplish within the confines of a band. Here's Tom York.
Someone said that, one of us said this recently, our minds kind of got blown as to the possibilities which we hadn't pursued yet, you know. And so when we started doing Kid A and Amnesiac, it was sort of, we were almost frozen up by the fact that we actually could do anything we wanted. We were a band, but yet we were into using samplers and into programming, and we were into basically giving ourselves the freedom to go anywhere we wanted. And it was kind of actually quite, it wasn't like exploring uncharted territory in that sense. It was just like, well, what we've been doing up till now is not turning us on, me especially, anymore. And so you start looking at every other possibility and kind of freak out.
Well, that was after, as you said, all the touring with OK Computer, I guess, right? You just really needed to look at things in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just the touring on OK Computer. We basically signed at the end of '91, and we pretty much went on the road from about May '92 and didn't stop until, you know, what was it, the summer '98. I mean, I think the beginning of when we started rehearsing OK Computer, we had a month off, but that was the longest we'd had off. So it wasn't just that; it was the continuation, and we kind of wanted to get to that stage whereby we could go, okay, let's stop. Whoa, we can stop, and you know.
I remember the initial stages of OK Computer when we decided to do Glastonbury and all that, and I remember saying to everybody, not that I hold it against you. But okay, we'll do Glastonbury and then we'll do a few months, but that's it. I can't do any more. I'll crack up. I just won't be able to do any more. We've been, I need to not do this. And a year and a half later, we finally did. And it took me very, very personally a very, very long time to recover. And that was just all in the music. I think everybody suffered from it to an extent.
Oh yeah.
Mm. We've just by the then '98 we were vegetables.
Fried, yeah.
We were vegetables.
A little earlier on, and with the audience here, you're talking about how the songs can be different from the studio to performing them live. And as we just said, you toured a lot during the last few years, even though you've taken time off in between. It's interesting to think of the songs on the last two studio albums in particular as having been conceived and put together in a room or a studio. How did they change, or how do they change when you perform them live?
What's strange is how each process, recording and performing live, they inform each other, so that when it came to trying to play Kid A and Amnesiac live, we had to learn quite new processes of playing and techniques of making music.
But it was surprisingly simpler than we thought it
was. It was much simpler because we were still in that framework of just letting go and being excited by it all. And then when it came to writing these songs for this record, we could use those techniques without thinking about it. And what had been a bit slow during recording Kid A and Amnesiac just suddenly felt very natural and could just be, grabbed, taken off the shelf and used, or whatever process it was, which is great position to be in.
It also meant that in a way, when we got into like programming or spending like 2 or 3 days working on sounds before they went down or whatever, towards the end, it wasn't such a big deal. It wasn't. I mean, because everybody now understood the necessary boring bits in the recording. You know what I mean? And it was sort of all right When you remember mixomatosis. When I sort of spent more or less 24 hours straight cutting up what you'd done on the drums fill, and like the only way to have got it done was just like, okay, leave me alone and I'll try and do it, and it worked. It was worth doing, but but that wouldn't have happened before when we were doing Cadeo and Amnesiac, because it was an insecurity thing. People were like, well, why are we spending 2 days doing this? Why are we spending 2 days cutting up drums or programming this bit here or this bit there, blah blah blah? And now it's like, yeah, whatever, fine. If that's what we need to do, let's do it.
Right.
So it was not just sort of it informed the live shows, and then, as Johnny said, it then informed how we work in the studio, and speed as being of the essence.
So each process kind of feeds the other one in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not like frozen up by the possibility anymore. You just like get on with it and try and do it quickly, which is something that Nigel's really cool at, because Nigel tends to kick us up the arse saying, well, if you want to try that, try it, and you've got 4 hours.
Right.
And if you ain't got it done in 4 hours, then we'll do something else. And that's actually really good.
Yeah, it's all about speeding up the time between what's in your head and what people hear, and so that it becomes hopefully as natural as possible, however much technology you use.
Well, you're talking about Nigel Godrich, obviously, who's produced the last 4 albums, I guess, now. And you did this one in LA.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a place where we did like an initial thing and we get away from everything else and you just lock yourself in a room. It was a little bit of like, yeah, just that we'd never dream of doing that at all.
And a lot of studios you go to, things can just feel quite portentous. And LA never does really, which is quite a nice thing about it.
I mean, did it influence any way that the songs came out, do you think, spending that time there as opposed to, the English countryside?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that when we went back and had the autumn back in Oxfordshire, we did 2 weeks in LA and then 5 weeks in Oxfordshire. The songs changed quite a bit. I think the songs were really, really, really warm. They're really warm. And we sort of,
I think we were pretty, I mean, it got a bit sticky towards the end of the 2 weeks when we were tired, but I think we were pretty lightened up about being away.
Right.
And just sort of concentrating and...
I mean, that's all you're there for, isn't it? Which is great.
Yeah, and we had 2 evenings off, and we managed to get out on that Sunday and go to the desert, and that was it. And we just worked solidly, but it was fun, because we'd been waiting to do it for ages, you know what I mean? And it wasn't Britain.
You're listening to a special hour of Sounds Eclectic with Radiohead. We're stepping away for a moment, but we'll be back with the rest of my interview with the band and another set of live music. Stay close for more Sounds Eclectic. This is Sounds Eclectic from PRI, Public Radio International. I'm Nic Harcourt, and you're listening to a special edition of the program with a live performance from Radiohead. We have another set of music coming up with Tom York and Johnny Greenwood in just a few moments' time, but first up, more of my chat with the band. Now, in a recent interview in Spin magazine, while talking about the title of the band's new CD, Hail to the Thief, and whether or not it was a political statement, Tom York was quoted at that time saying that during the making of the album, he became obsessed with how certain people are able to inflict incredible pain on others while believing that they are doing the right thing. I asked him what he meant by that.
A lot of the record is about that, the frustration and powerlessness and anger and the huge gap between the people that anoint themselves and put themselves in control and the people that allegedly voted for them. I mean, that was something I really couldn't get away from on the record. It was really apparent all the time.
I know that a couple of you are dads. I know that you became a dad a couple of years ago. Who else is a dad? Yeah,
I am.
I became a dad myself 3 months ago. And what a perspective shift I experienced just in this brief period of time. How does that life experience impact the way you write?
Talking about writing, I'm looking at you, Tom.
I was just thinking. I mean, the lack of time is the obvious one. when you go and you work quickly, and becoming a dad makes you think about think about what it is that you do yourself. And personally speaking, it made me consider that music is something as a gift rather than something to be frustrated about and angry over. But the other side of the coin is that I think one of the most important things on this record, although I don't think I thought about it at the time particularly, or maybe I did, was that feeling of anger and frustration at being totally powerless to change the future that awaits our children. I think that you'd not be human if you didn't feel like that. And I think this record, from the title to the music to the lyrics and everything, is that, really. It's the core of the record. It's like, how dare you destroy our children's future, you mother.
Ed, you said in a recent interview that Hail to the Thief represents the end of an era. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it just, there's something about the way that we've recorded this, we've made this record, that it may be to do, when I said that, maybe to do with the fact that it's the first time the recording session has been really easy, and it feels like we've employed ways that we've made this record in a way that has drawn upon things, particularly because of the live thing, but drawn upon things of over the last 5 records. And we've kind of, Nigel said at one stage, this is the album that you've deserved to make. And okay, we've kind of done this now, so personally speaking, it feels like we really need to sort of go away and do something completely different.
You're right. There's also, I think, it has set a lot of ghost to rest.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think things that have been lurking there from as far back as Pablo Honey.
Yeah.
Actually managing to get through those anxieties when you're in the studio and do that. It's just like, okay, right, that is behind us.
Yeah.
Now, so
we've got we haven't talked about it, but we haven't even talked. I feel vaguely embarrassed saying that it feels like an end of an era, but it really does. It kind of like.
It's time.
It's time to really change, because
Right.
because it's what you do is what we've been doing is also a young person's game.
Right.
It really is.
We're old gits now.
Everyone's getting older.
If you want to carry on doing it, you have to change the way that and the music has to follow suit. Maybe what
Do you have to get like mid-tempo?
We've been doing that all our lives.
we're getting faster.
We're actually getting faster.
We're getting.
It's where it's
It's midlife crisis, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I can do this still. Really?
I just got to not get wasted the night before. That's the key.